Om Asato Ma Sadgamaya Tamaso Ma Jyotirgamaya Mrityurmam Amritam Gamaya. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Lead us from the unreal to the real, from darkness of ignorance to the light of knowledge, and from death to immortality. Peace, peace, peace. The fact, or let us put it, the truth, is this, that we are in God. We live in God. Our existence is in God. The question is only knowing it, realizing it, experiencing it. And therefore, the scriptures who try to bring us what the truth is, they keep on telling us that, look, God is all around. Like Ishavasya Upanishad begins with this wonderful verse, that all around, everything, cover it with God, because that is what it really is. Everything that we perceive, right from our bodies to the vast galaxies, to the end of the universe that we can conceive of, gross as well as subtle, the material as well as mental, let all that be covered with God, because that is the truth, that is the real presence. The other things that we see, they really are coming and going. They are not real. They are transient things. And therefore, moreover, they are just names and forms that we imagine in the truth. It is like the animal crackers. We see different shapes and then give different names according to the shapes, that this is a cat, this is an elephant, this is a deer, and so forth. But the substance in all of them is one and the same. So let us cover all these different names and forms, all the shapes that we are seeing, all the distinctions that we are seeing, let that be covered with the truth. Why is covering necessary? Because we are not seeing it. The sages are seeing that everything is really God, but we don't see it, and therefore seeing all the distinctions, all the differentiations, and the conflicts that it generates, we get caught in them, we suffer because of that, we lose peace of mind, and we do not get the happiness that we are seeking. That being the nature of our life, and because we want to make the life peaceful, make it joyous, make it really meaningful, we want the truth. Living in God is actually just learning to live in truth, living in truth. Instead of living in error, let us live in truth. So, therefore the Upanishad says there that think of it, cover it with God, because that is the reality. And Now, what do you have? Just think of it when we cover everything with God. Now, instead of living on the earth, we are living in God. Instead of walking with so many different people, sometimes good, sometimes not so good, sometimes pleasurable, sometimes not so pleasurable, we will be walking with God. We will be talking to God. Our whole presence will be filled with the divine awareness. And this is the transition that we have to make, living in the divisions, distinctions of I and the world. Let us learn to live in that oneness, where we see all that we seek in life will be gotten. The real search in life is that of this true oneness that envelops, accommodates all the diversities. Instead of destroying the diversity, it encompasses them. Like the unity of ocean encompasses all the diversity of the waves. But when you look at the ocean, now you understand the waves too. If you just look at the waves, you are not seeing the truth. The waves, they come and go. They have no stability as such. The stability is this ocean. And therefore, we have to see this truth. This truth is actually all that we don't have to manufacture it. We have to realize it. Vedanta says that the question is of just getting the knowledge. A friend of mine keeps on arguing about it, that, well, whether we know or not, what does it matter? It is there. If I know or I don't know, that is, God is everywhere, that is there. What difference does it make whether even if I know I am God, even if I don't know, I am God? The argument on the surface appears quite correct, and it also soothes our laziness about doing spiritual practice. Why do I have to, meditate? Why do I have to read scriptures? Why do I need to pray? Because I am God. Whether I know it or I do not know it, it doesn't make any difference. What difference is it going to make? I am God anyway. So what is the need to pray? Who is praying to whom? And then once I gave him this example, look, brother, if you have, say, $100 bill in your pocket, whether you know it or whether you don't know it, and the $100 bill is in your pocket. That's a fact. When you know it, then you can use it. When you don't know it, you will keep on begging, I don't have any money, and so forth, So, knowing and not knowing makes a big actual difference in life. When we know the truth, then our life goes in that line, that yes, I am divine. I am surrounded on all sides by the divine. God is in me. God is outside me. I am living in God. And the life will accordingly change completely. What happens then to the life? This very Upanishad later describes. This is one of the shortest Upanishads, Ishavasya Upanishad. And it describes the life of such person. If a person sees that the self alone has manifested as all these different beings, what happens? The covetousness goes away from life, hatred goes away from life, the jealousy goes away from life. All these things that we do not want to spoil our lives, like jealousy, hatred, anger, they all vanish from our life. In fact, that is the only way of making them vanish from our life. There is no other way. There are no shortcuts in that. In fact, this is the shortest cut, is it not? That know the truth, that God is the reality. We are living in God. Just we have to know this truth. Not that we have to live in God means we have to go somewhere. That we are living here. Of course, living in Providence means living in God. So it is. But suppose somebody says, well, I am living in New York, then let me go to some other place where I will live in God. No, that you don't have to go anywhere. Just know the truth. And go from error to truth. If we want to take it up as the idea of journey, then to go and live in God means know the truth that we are living in God. Because we do not see this, what happens? We live in ignorance. And this ignorance means I and the world, and I have the craving for the things from the world. Actually, Vedanta tells a very nice thing. What does this craving indicate? It also indicates the underlying truth of oneness. When I crave for something, what does it mean? I want to be one with it. It is again an establishment of oneness, that I want this. Means I want to have oneness. Only in desire what happens is it is the mistaken way of achieving it. Because the desires you will see keep on multiplying and multiplying, there is no satisfaction. But when we know that I am really all, now you'd have no desires left at all. You are everything. Now, it is not necessary for you to go and get it for yourself in competition with somebody else. When we have desires for the things of the world, what happens? Then there are, Shankaracharya mentions in some of his commentaries this, the whole cause of fights and wars, that the supply of things is limited, and those who want those things are many, many more. And so the war for oil, war for water, all those things, war for more money, war for more such things of enjoyment. That is the history of the world. War, more land, more resources of, say, energy and so forth. And so the wars commence. War between individuals and war between groups, what we call war between nations. So these wars cannot be stopped unless we see that the desires for these things are eliminated. And how can they be eliminated? When there is this awareness of I and world. One cannot eliminate it, friends. The basic nature of this I and world, this division, is that there will have to be desires. I am so and so, and that means that the world is this, and then the inherent idea springs up, this I is imperfect. Because this world is there, I am not perfect without taking things from the world. And so I try to go on adding things that I need more money. Unending thirst, even if you are a billionaire, you need more money. So it is goes on like that. Even if you get money, initially one feels that idea that if I get enough money, then the life will be a kind of peaceful. I will not need much. There will be lot of peace in life. Actually, it is our irrationality to think in that. Look at the lives of so many people who had lot of money. Is that a peaceful life? Antithesis of that, in fact. You will find their life more restless to get more. So many wealthy people, they go and commit suicides. Why? It is comparatively the rate of people committing suicide is more amongst the wealthy people. It is why? Because money cannot bring most of the things that you were craving for. You get some other things in life, still it is not filled, the gap is not filled. Because you can never become perfect like this. God or the reality or the truth, these are all synonyms of God, the truth or the reality. It is when that is added to life, then life becomes perfect. That is why Jesus says, you become perfect as your Father in heaven is perfect. We have to become perfect. And that perfection is another name of living in God. As they say, the hole in our heart is a God-shaped hole. And therefore, it cannot be filled with peg of any other size. You can try to fill it with many other things. The hole will not get filled. It is God alone who will be able to fill that big hole. So, therefore, we have to see this truth and learn to live in God. When that learning comes, that education comes, then the life undergoes a big transformation. Then the life gets filled with love. There is no craving left. It is a very stunning change. Unbelievable, friends. In ignorance, we feel that this is the nature of living. I was talking to one gentleman the other day, and then he said, well, the wars, they have to be there, and since we are strong, we have the right to get all the things from the world because we are strong. The strong wins, the weak loses. So, and then what happens if the other becomes strong? Will you like this argument? That it is okay, so that person also has the same right as I have. Just because I am strong, I have the right to kill somebody and snatch things. And so, there is no support for that kind of argument really. But when we see that everything is filled with divine, then you can imagine the life completely changes. Then, as this verse in the Upanishad says, then there is no hatred, no quarrels, all filled with true love that does not expect anything. As you can see in the lives of great sages who have realized this truth in their life, those who live in God. Learning to live in God is also Another way is to see that God is so close to us. As we mentioned, that we don't have to go anywhere to see God. We are in God. Just think how long, how far a wave has to go to meet the ocean. How many miles away? That is, the wave is in ocean. That it doesn't need to go anywhere. It just has to know that it is in ocean. So knowing this is what is important. If we do not know, then the truth is still there, but is not available to us. Having and having it available are two different things, friends. Many times a few certain very useful things, they are there sitting right in my room, but I don't find them put somewhere. And so although they are right there, they are not available. I want to write something right now, and then I look for pen. Now they are right there, but since I have not kept it properly, I do not know where they are. Even though they are there, they are not available. And thus, I cannot make use of that. So God is there everywhere. I am in God, but unless I know this truth, the life will remain miserable. So, that is why we have to take up this journey from error to truth. And error to truth in the sense that living in error, that no, God is there somewhere. It is not there somewhere. That Vedanta tells, here, right with us. When Saint Paul, Apostle Paul, was preaching, he told, it is in the Acts, in the 17th chapter, 28th verse or 28th passage, it says that we live, move, and have our being in Him. We live, move, and have our being in God. So we don't really, we just have to look for it. We have to know this, and not going somewhere, but it is right here. Not go there somewhere, God sitting in some heaven, God sitting right in the kingdom of heaven which is in us. That is a matter that needs to be realized. As we realize it, Upanishad tells us, and also Bhagavad Gita, that the life becomes filled with bliss. Nothing more is sought. Bhagavad Gita in the 6th chapter gives a few verses about how the life thus changes. It says that yastu atmaritireva syad atmatriptascha manavah atmanyeva cha santushtah tasya karyam na vidyate. That the person is now finding joy in self, does not need anything else, because all is in self. There is no other person necessary to make my life happy. There is no need that I have to get more money, or I have to get more enjoyments, or I have to get many more things to make my life. I have to add so many things so that the life will become happy. In ignorance one feels the need. When the knowledge dawns, then the understanding changes completely, that Atmarati. Atmarati means is that person is happy in self. We feel that my happiness is in candy, my happiness is in that person behaving well with me, that person should not say any harsh word to me, then I am happy. Should say sweet words to me, then only I am happy. If somebody utters a harsh word to me, then my happiness goes away. So, in whose hand is my happiness here? In that person's hand. Do I have control over that person? That person should not utter a harsh word to me. Do I have control? No. Do I have a control over this, that it is that person will always say sweet word to me? No, cannot have it. And if that person says sweet word to me, then sometimes I may like, sometimes I may not like. Yesterday, as I was going in train, there was a couple sitting close to me, and then I was having, the wife asked me many questions about what is this. I was reading a book of Bhagavad Gita, and that was actually in Sanskrit and Devanagari script. So she, glancing at it, I was not aware that she is glancing at it. So, and then she suddenly asked, "Excuse me, what language is this book in? And what is it?" And then the conversation ensued, and she asked many, many questions. And then her husband was sitting quietly, silently, and she told, "He is my husband, but he is not a wise man." And the husband smilingly says, "Good, good. Now I know that she is my wife. Otherwise, had she said that, no, he is a wise man, I would have thought that somebody else is sitting there. Imposter is sitting there. But now I know that my wife is sitting there because she said, he is not a wise man." So, it is, if kind word is said, then also you may not feel always happy. You may feel scared that something else might be coming. Like the children, when they start saying, "Mom, you are so good, you are so," the mom gets into immediately a cautious mode. That something is going to be demanded. So it is our joys and sorrows, they depend on the world, not in our hands. When you see, this living in God will make all these joys and sorrows and all that. Who will ask for sorrow, But my happiness will be with me all the time. Nothing can take it away, actually. Nothing can take it away. So, even this another verse in this very chapter will tell it. But let me complete this, that Atma Tripta means completely contented life with this self. That there is no need for contentment. It is all contented life. Contentment is there all the time. And peace is there all the time. So, Atmanyeva cha santushtaha, there is the sense of fulfillment. And such a person, therefore, doesn't need to take up a project or to do a certain activity to become happy. So, that is the life of such a person. And then, just to make this message go deeper, the opposite side is told, that to show that even if that there is a huge heap of the sufferings due to changes in the surroundings come, this person, his or her state does not change because of that. It is not changing because today it is snowing, you do not feel happy, there is some other thing happening. So, my headache makes me miserable, if the head is giving pain. If there are more painful situations, it is very difficult to remain stable. Then I become agitated, angry, and so forth. But this person, that yasmin sthito na dukkhena gurunapi vichalyate. Not only this person doesn't want anything, many different types of difficult situations are faced with this person also. This person also has to face all these things. Let us not assume that this person therefore does not ever get any painful disease. The same diseases that an ordinary person gets inflicted with, this person also gets visitations by all those. Also, the other calamities, they also, like on everybody, they befall on this person also. There are financial and other problems, they also come to this person. But none of these have any the slightest capability of taking away this immense happiness from this person. That is the state that the person gets into by living in God. It is, we see this in the lives of great sages, and the examples are so wonderful that the person is being crucified. See, Jesus being crucified. Such a painful thing. Even imagination makes us feel that painful situation. And there, what does he say? No, well, he is not angry with anybody. He is not cursing anybody. Just see, that it is an actual life. No curses, only blessings are coming out, even in that state. When there was a lot of people following him, he was not exuberant about it, in happiness. Even if people were cursing him, saying bad things to him, getting agitated and angry with him, he did not become angry. He did not get that curses in his mouth. That is the life. Because he saw that he is not getting being crucified. And those people who were doing it, they were doing it out of ignorance. So he prayed for those people that, they are doing it out of ignorance. They do not know, so forgive them because they do not know. An act is being committed out of ignorance. We are caught in this little personality, body and mind, and get identified with it. And thus, whatever happens to body, it happens to me as well. Imagine, for example, if now I have put on this shirt, and suppose Charles comes and starts giving blows on this shirt. He is not going to do, but just imagine, that suppose he comes forward and gives me, not me, but just to the shirt. Now, since I have put on this shirt, the blows will be felt by me because the shirt is on me. And so, oh, don't hit me. I will say, don't hit me. He would say, no, no, I am not hitting you. I am just hitting the shirt. I would say, please, don't hit the shirt either. Now suppose I take this shirt out, keep it on the hanger, and then Charles goes on hitting that shirt. I will just smile. Nothing will happen to me. Will I feel the pain? I won't feel the pain of it because I am not identified with it. This body we identify with it. I feel I am that. And so, whatever happens to body, I feel it is happening to me. This is ignorance, friends. This is ignorance. If we think, if we just think, it is not necessary to bring spirituality, religion, or the scriptures and the belief and all that. Just think. It is easy to see that we are not body. And yet, in ignorance, we identify with it. And so, when the birthday, body is born, I say, I am born. And so, as the body increases in age, time rolls over, years roll over, I feel that I am aging. We try to hide it, of course. It is, one gentleman told me that, I don't try to, even if people ask, that I don't generally give out my age. One person came to him he was in the hospital, and they have to that your date of birth and all that. What's your age? And he says, well, I have lost count. What is your date of birth? And he gave the date without giving the year. This is, say, 7th of January. Which year? Said, every year. So it is that the things that we identify with body, so all these characteristics of body, we take them to be mine, and thus become happy or miserable with that. But when I know that I am not body, this is just knowing the truth, friends. Just learning to live in reality. Why should we just go on living in ignorance? Isn't it good to learn to live in truth, in reality? And this being the reality that I am not body, then what? Whatever is happening to body, I will not feel the misery of it. And the great example, again, of our comparatively much modern historic times is Sri Ramakrishna. Amazing to see. Jesus, you may say, well, 2000 years ago, who knew what happened? Nobody really recorded it at that time. It was later on those records were written. So there are skeptics about that. But with Sri Ramakrishna, you see that the verbatim records have been put there. Many doctors have examined that. And you see that Sri Ramakrishna, in spite of that growing cancer, he was always in bliss, in spite of what would have been really unimaginable pain. And those were not the days when morphine and such painkillers were available. Just the deteriorating condition, and he was still not concerned about that, just distributing bliss. Because he has that to give, he could give just that. If I have all the pain, what can I distribute? I can be distributor of pain. But Sri Ramakrishna has this bliss. So everybody, even in that state, we read those beautiful conversations these days in the Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna studies. Every Tuesday, we are seeing this, that he is in that very an advanced stage of cancer, and yet always speaks about the God, the true self, a person living in God. One of his disciples, Swami Adbhutananda, in later days was asked that, why did such a pure person like Sri Ramakrishna has to undergo so much suffering? Was it because people came and touched his feet and prayed to him, and so did he take the sufferings of others on him? And Swami Adbhutananda, before discussing those points, he said, "Let me make one thing quite clear to you." Swami Adbhutananda was one of his attendants, even in those days, constantly around him. So he said, "Let me tell you one thing, that we have never seen him suffering." He was not suffering at all. It is, you would say, body and its suffering. Let them take care of themselves. I don't have to get involved into those things. And so he always remained in bliss. Many, not only then, he used to be visited by many physical problems. This thing he described, that there were such bouts of terrible dysentery that he had, that it was not even possible. The body became so emaciated that he was not able to go out to relieve himself. One big pot was kept right in the room, and while suffering, from people's eyes he was suffering. He was just discussing all the great principles of Vedanta. At that time, he said, at Dakshineshwar, where he used to live, so many great scholars of Vedanta used to come. And so he used to just talk about all these Vedanta things and was very happy. That was the condition, because he was living in God. So what do we get if we learn to live in God? Now, let us come to conclusion. This service time is coming to end, that it is 5:56. So before it becomes too late, let us come to conclusion. I get warned by people, you give too long speeches, cut them. And then I tell them sometimes that joke also, that today I will make my lecture short. It doesn't matter how long it is going to take, but I am going to make it short. So let us come to conclusion. If we learn to live in God, what happens? We live in bliss, we live in peace, we live with all love and benevolence all around us. If we do not live in God, what is our lot? Jealousies, hatreds, wars, sufferings. And there is no escape from it, friends. Many feel that let us make this world very nice and then that suffering will go away. Let us make it more beautiful. Let us make people more educated. Let us open more schools. Not that they are bad things, one can do all that. But is that going to remove the sufferings of mankind? No, friends. Even when there wasn't much education, there used to be wars. Now we have lot of education everywhere, so we have wars. With more education, we have sophisticated weapons, that's all. Earlier, with those primitive weapons, they could kill one or two persons. Now we have education, so we can just destroy cities completely. In one stroke, 1,000,000 people could be killed. So that is, education does not prevent it. Do we not see that people who are highly educated, how much jealousies, competitions, hatreds are there? It is, look at all these, the PhD aspirants and all, so much that struggle that goes on. I and you, one person told me that, I am not talking to my colleagues now because I am afraid that somebody may steal my idea, and then instead of my research, that fellow will publish in his or her name. So, even in the field of, high, this ivory tower of high education, you cannot escape these jealousies and such things. Not too long ago, in Georgia, I think, no, in Alabama, one highly educated lady, professor, because she didn't get what is it called? Tenure, brought a big a gun in that staff meeting and killed so many people, beginning with their dean or whatever. So, so what I mean is just adding more education, adding more such reforms, and is not going to change the basic things in our human perception. It is the whole perception that I am not this limited being in body, mind and living in this world that is going to oppress me. I am living in God. That is the only solution, friends. Only solution. And therefore, let us start practicing it. Its practice, of course, involves. It's a long road, let us say. Although it is just, we are in God, that is the reality, that is the truth. For knowing this truth, we have to put lot of efforts in a disciplined way. In fact, that is what is called yoga, to put the efforts in the right direction, to realize this truth. So, when it requires lot of self-restraint, if that again comes with practice. Somebody was telling me, well, it is impossible, it seems. Well, I told at one time I thought that riding a bicycle is impossible for me, because I tried to ride and fell a few times and hurt myself. So I thought that it's never going to be possible for me. But I continued, and after a few weeks, and then it was difficult for my parents to stop me from riding the bicycle. So it is like that. We may feel things are difficult, but with practice, perseverance, we are sure to get it. So let us begin this journey from not knowing the truth towards knowing the truth. Let us learn to live in God. Thank you, friends.